What's going on, YouTube, and welcome back here to another day here in our MC Magic server, the one-to-one recreation of Disney World. Today we are looking in the Magic Kingdom at Country Bear Jamboree. Now, this area is really an opening day attraction, one of the few left in Magic Kingdom, and we're going to look today at the history of Country Bear Jamboree, its origins in Disneyland, its origins back to Walt Disney himself. So we're going to go over all of that here today. So to start off, the concept for Country Bear Jamboree actually goes back to, if you guys remember, Mineral Kingdom, which was a concept where Walt Disney was going to have basically the Talking Bear show in a resort. It was going to be a ski lodge resort, or Mineral Kingdom, and that's where the Country Bears story was supposed to begin. Obviously, Mineral Kingdom never came to fruition the way that Walt had wanted, and it ended up going into Disneyland and Disney World as Country Bear Jamboree. It opened on opening day of the Magic Kingdom in 1971 in Frontierland, and this building, which is Grizzly Hall. And what's interesting is it features over 20 audio animatronics, which in 2026 in a Disney attraction is pretty rare. There's very few attractions that have that many animatronics left, let alone a show, and probably the only two that I could really think off the top of my head are Country Bear Jamboree and the Hall of Presidents. It originally was designed for a never-built Mineral Kingdom, like we talked about in California. The show became so popular that in the 70s, Disney opened a second version at Disneyland Park in 1972. So this is one of the few attractions where it actually opened in the Magic Kingdom first and transferred over to Disneyland later on. And the original concept, like I said, it was designed by Mark Davis in the 1950s. It was going to be a concept of a musical bear show performing in a rustic theater show. You had mariachi bears, you had Dixieland jazz bears, marching band bears, and we could see over time things definitely evolved a little bit throughout the concept and the development of this project. And then we saw some of the famous characters: Henry, Big Al, Teddy Barra, the Sunbonnets, Wendell and Trixie, Buff Max, and Melvin. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of people love this attraction so much, it's definitely taken some criticism recently, as they recently redeveloped the one in the Magic Kingdom. And I think a lot of people, including myself, actually think it's a worthy replacement. It's not great. I wish they came up with more original songs and not necessarily Disney songs, but I'm okay with the changes they made to this attraction. This isn't one of the ones that I'm willing to die on the hill of what it became. This is a worthy refurbishment of this attraction, and to be honest with you, I'm happy that they refurbished it and didn't just knock it down and build something else in its place. And you know, back in the day, I think it was 2019 or 2020, during Bob Chapek, there was rumors that they were going to end up putting some kind of Toy Story Woody show in Grizzly Hall, which really, I think, would have been a much more problematic issue, especially for Walt Disney World. I think a lot of the things people love about this, it is kind of corny. It's that kind of vaudeville humor that a lot of people either love or hate. It's, you know, it intentionally is going to have the puns that are kind of not the best. It's got that country bluegrass roots music, and you know, I think the biggest thing, especially today in 2026, it's Americana, that nostalgic Americana from that era. And I think that there's a great reflection of that, and it's a great way to kind of preserve that American heritage that used to be present in the West. And again, you know, these were really good audio animatronics in the 70s. They have recently updated them where they're a little bit smoother, but even nowadays, I mean, a couple of them really haven't been working recently. So Disney's been having a hard time kind of keeping up with the animatronics and keeping them running properly, which, you know, is one of the downsides to this attraction now that it's updated. Is the new advancements maybe aren't, the infrastructure really wasn't built for a couple of the animatronics that they've since put in here, which is a shame. The first real refurbishment was back in 2012, and they shortened the show about 4 or 5 minutes, and they removed a couple of songs. Some longtime fans, they were pretty disappointed, you know, and it kind of led to where the 2024 reimagining came along and really changed the attraction pretty significantly. So the updated version would open July 17th of 2024, and they changed some of the songs. So Disney songs were performed in the country music style. So you had the Nashville Opry inspired presentation, new costumes and staging, updated dialogue and scripts, a couple of changes in terms of the songs, like The Bare Necessities, A Whole New World, and Try Everything, which were Disney like IP movie songs. You know, Zootopia from Try Everything, A Whole New World from Aladdin, and The Bare Necessities from The Jungle Book. So kind of a weird wide range of songs that they picked to replace the original in the Country Bear Jamboree. And some interesting trivia. So this was once sponsored by Pepsi Cola, and the mounted heads, Buff, Max, and Melvin, are technically separate animatronics from the stage performers. So they're kind of up on the wall to the right of the theater. If you're looking inside the theater, they're up by the exit doors. And the original character, Liver Lips McGraw, was renamed Romeo McGraw during that 2024 refurbishment. You know, there's reasons for why that change was made, as possible controversy and things like that. Disney wanted to avoid that, and that's why they made some of the changes that they did. And you know, many Disney historians consider Country Bears one of the clearest examples of the quirky humor that the Imagineers were going for during the 1970s. And like I said, this is a quintessential Mark Davis attraction. This is one that Mark Davis had a lot of input on. And like I said, Disney himself, Walt Disney, had a pretty big stake in what this attraction was developing as in the beginning. And its ties to the Mineral Kingdom, one of the few real references to Mineral Kingdom left, as that never came to fruition. Country Bear Jamboree was a part of that development process, and one of the few things we actually got from Mineral Kingdom and everything that it ultimately ended up becoming. This is an attraction that I think a lot of people will say is a classic, and rightfully so. And I'm glad that they kept it. I think we're going to see something similar happen to the Enchanted Tiki Room at some point, because this attraction is another one that Walt Disney had a lot of input in. And I think it's only a matter of time before we see Disney make the same, asking the same questions. Do we keep the Enchanted Tiki Room, or do we update it? And I think Disney made the right decision keeping the Country Bear Jamboree. It fits here, it makes sense. It's that pure Americana in a different way, but I think it works. And I think a lot of people, you know, do I prefer the old version of Country Bear Jamboree more than this? Yes. But I think for the new audience and the younger kids growing up, I think this is a version that will stick with them a little bit better than the old version ever did. And I think that's really the reality of the situation. It's not my favorite, but I can live with it. And this is, like I said, this is an attraction. I'm just happy that it's still here. And instead of just tearing it down and putting a new IP in there, they're keeping it the way it is for the most part. And I'm okay with that. So let me know what you guys think down below. What do you guys think of this attraction? Is this one that you're happy they updated? Do you prefer the first version of Country Bear Jamboree? Or, you know, do you wish they went in a different direction, like putting some kind of Woody show in this area from Toy Story? Let me know what you guys think down below. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys again next time.